Good afternoon. Welcome to Torn 2. I'm your host, Gregory T. Roberts. Welcome to the September 10th. Um, it's kind of a bittersweet day. Let me tell you why. Because tomorrow is September 11th, and being a ex firefighter and person, I will never forget that date. And it's important that you don't forget that date. But before we start, let me go into the weather. Um, Today's Friday. Of course, you know that it's partly cloudy. It's actually a sunny. High of 75, low of 64. Saturday, sunny. High of 81, low of 64. Sunday, cloudy. High of 81. High of 81, low of 61. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Chances of rain 50%, 60%, and 50%. That is your chance of rain those days, as you can see on the screen. Just to also let you know that if you would like to be a part of the show, log into WVS or M106, our Facebook pages. And if you do that, then you can be part of the show. I would like to know where you were 20 years ago, when the actually, let's pretend like it's the 11th, which would be tomorrow, but where were you on September the 11th? I can tell you where I was. I was working for the fire department, ending my career, wrapping up my career, and I was walking down the street in the pure Marquette area and marking empty lots, and noticed just an eerie. There were nobody on the streets. Decided to take a little break and go to the bathroom at Station 5, walked into Station 5, and found out that this country was under attack. So today's show is to talk about that day, what happened, um, and for me, it's one of those days that this country came together. The 19 terrorists from Al Qaeda thought that they could bring this country down by hitting our major spots, such as the Twin Towers, the Pentagon. They thought that the fourth plane would probably hit the White House or somewhere thereof. But we'll go into that story. We are working out some bugs, so hopefully we'll be able to get my co-host in, Pastor Melvin Burns. But we're going to start the show anyway. Hey, Pastor Melvin Burns.
Hey, how are you?
There you go.
I'm here. I had to switch devices, but
Oh,
I'm here.
okay, we got you.
Yes, sir.
Um, let's go right into this conversation because it's a long one. It's a D one.
Yes.
Where were you? And for all the guests, as far as if you're on Facebook, um, or you can catch us on WBS 103.7 The Beat or M106 on Facebook, and let us know where you were at 9/11. This is the 20th anniversary, and I told you where I was. Pastor Melvin, where were you?
That morning I had a meeting, and so I did not watch the news, and got into my office, and I had a meeting scheduled, and I got a call. Both parties were running behind, and was an attorney and an environmental expert. And I remember the guy on the phone said, "I'm watching the news. I have friends in the military," and I had no idea what he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked to my conference room, turned the TV on, and maybe that's when I first, 8:45 or so, saw what was going on. And I remember they came into the meeting. We kind of sat there for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes watching TV,
Start.
canceled the meeting for the day. And so, in office and city hall that day, that was just kind of the talk. Everybody was kind of watching news here and there, and kind of in disbelief.
I think we all were.
Yeah,
It was a plan by Al Qaeda. Um,
yeah,
19 guys, and as I had said before, they thought that by hitting major strongholds or buildings like
yeah,
the Pentagon, the Twin Towers. There was some that said that that Fort Plane was heading to Washington as well.
yes,
That they could shake this country, but what happened was it actually brought this country together. It strengthened the country. Talk
yeah.
a little bit about that.
Hey, this stands out in my mind more than anything else. Maybe uh, not wasn't a full month after 9/11. I had to fly to Salt Lake City for a conference. And I remember everybody applauding the pilot when we took off and then landed, how polite everybody was in the airport, and how people, I remember everybody just kind of, as they sat next to people, kind of chatting with people. And I don't know if it's just thinking all of us that this might be the last person I talk to, but I just remember the courtesy and politeness of everybody. Again, Salt Lake City, I don't know if it was the times, but man, I've never been to a city where people were more polite and courteous. But I just distinctly remember that flight and just how people behaved and courteous and, excuse me and let people step in front of them in line. And, you know, it was in your mind, of course, you know, what had happened with the other planes. And, uh, they're just a sense of unity.
Mhm.
I don't consider myself to be the most patriotic person, but you were an American that day because uh, any kind of American that you are, you were hurt and affected by what happened on 9/11. It was that they attacked us.
Yeah, that was they attacked us,
Yes.
and the big thing is the talk. I want to talk a few things that you said that how people just applauded for the crew when you took that flight. We don't
Yeah.
have that. We don't have that now.
No,
We do not have that now.
no, 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 no. You remember the pilot after they landed, the pilot would come out and he'd stand there, when everybody applaud, and I think they keep that door locked now.
And the door is locked, and
Yeah,
probably a couple guns behind.
yeah, yeah.
Um, let's talk about that date. So for someone that let's bring you back to 2001.
Man,
The
yeah,
the first tower was struck, um, and about it was amazing to see that tower. It was struck, and it was struck somewhere at 8:45
yeah,
in the morning,
yeah,
loaded with 20,000 gallons of fuel. The thing with these terrorists at that particular time, they were very precise, and
yeah.
they knew exactly that if those planes started where they did, they would be full of fuel.
Right.
So at 8:45, the first tower was struck near the 80th floor.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing about 8:42, the flight from San Francisco, flight 93, that's the one that crashed in Pennsylvania,
Uh-huh.
took off. 8:46, same thing. 8:50, President George W. Bush was alerted, and we remember that class that he was in, talking to a class of kids,
Yeah.
and the Secret Service or somebody reached over and told him that this country is under attack, and his posture, I will never forget the look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And people forget that uh, President Bush at that time's rating was low.
Low. His presidency didn't really have a focus. It was he got elected because we had had enough of. I'm saying we. I'm just talking in terms. We'd had enough of the Clintons. I'm saying in general, and he didn't really have a big focus, a big aim. You know, they talked to compassionate conservatives and those things, but his presidency hadn't gained any real footage, didn't have any real strong mandates, and that changed his presidency, especially that first term. It just it defined him. Yeah, yeah, um,
So, 9:36, the Secret Service evacuated Dick Cheney, Vice President Dick Cheney. 9:05, let's see, President Bush had learned about the second plane had crashed into the second tower.
hmm
Um, and then let's keep on going. And I vividly just remember those planes just crashing. And I was reviewing these notes and stuff like that, and I was quite humbled by the patriotism of the people
yes,
that after this happened, after 9/11 happened,
yeah,
they joined the military, they
yeah.
joined the
Oh
fire
gosh,
department, they joined the police departments,
yeah.
and they wanted to be involved.
Now, were you still in the fire department at the time, Greg?
I was still in the fire
I
department.
recall my brother, maybe talking around that time, not that day, but that sense of if I could, I'd go there and help.
I think for the most part, a lot of people felt that way.
Yeah,
They just wanted to do something.
yeah,
At 9:42, the FAA grounded all flights. Um,
yeah.
the White House and the U.S. Capitol was evacuated at 9:59. The South Tower collapsed in
Mhm.
10 seconds after burning for 56 minutes. More than 800 people around the building were killed. Of course, the other tower had collapsed as well. At 10:03, Flight 93 in Pennsylvania crashed.
Mhm.
And we remember the story of the brave guy talking to his wife on the phone
Right.
and said the Lord's Prayer, and I believe they said, "Let's roll."
Let's roll. Yeah. Yep.
And they fought off the guys, but they ended up losing a life. But we don't know where that plane was heading.
Yeah.
At 10:15, the Pentagon outer ring collapsed. The North Tower collapsed, burning after 102 minutes. 1,600 people were killed.
Mm.
And we can go on and on and on about the timeline, but I just want to talk about how important is it for us to remember that date.
It is. Like we said, just you know, as you go through that timeline, that second tower. A lot of people. You were just grabbing the news when the first one went down, but when that second tower went down, it was like that final blow. You just kind of felt it. It was like, yeah, this is really happening. I know for me, I caught the second one. It was like, okay, yeah, this is really real. This is really happening, and probably just numb for a couple of days. You're watching news. We're glued to the news, but I remember that second tower just being the one that really kind of, as I saw it happen live there, it's like, man,
That was it was kind of the dagger, but then all of a sudden you found out that the Pentagon was under attack, and then at that particular time you're looking up in the sky and
yeah.
saying,
It, what's
what's
next?
going to happen next?
Yeah, exactly. What's next? You didn't know. It was like, what? Yeah, that was exactly the feeling. What's next?
So anyway, this is our 9/11 edition where we're talking about. We would love to hear from you on our sites, WVS 103.7 The Beat, Facebook, or M106. Where were you on that day of 9/11? I want to get back to a point that we talked about of the difference between now and then. I put on my Facebook page, never forget, and I will do this. I will do this every year until I die. As being a firefighter and watching a
Mhm.
lot of brothers and sisters go in that building
Yes.
and didn't make it out. Um, and then, of course, um, to the families that lost their lives, that was hard. Like you said earlier, you just felt compelled that you wanted to do something,
Yes.
but you couldn't do nothing but you just, you know, pray and just sit in front of the TV and just watch all hell break loose in Pennsylvania and in
Yeah.
Washington, D.C., and just New York. But this country, I am proud to say, came, came together,
Yes.
a spirit of unity, and said,
Right.
you attacked our country. That can't happen.
Yeah.
And we need to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Gave us a glimpse for a minute of what we can possibly be.
Right, which, as I like I said, I put a post on my Facebook site, and somebody just instantly attacked it. And okay, and let me be very clear when I say this. Okay. Politics has changed. This
Mhm.
country has changed. There's no doubt about change. But let me say this: two wrongs don't make a right.
Correct.
Um, it is important that we remember 9/11. It's important that Congress continues to support those people that went in those buildings that are struggling
Mhm.
with health ailments, and we gave a promise. This is going to sound familiar. We gave a promise, um, but we almost let that go. Other than a couple people fighting, and made sure that Washington did fulfill their obligation in their bill to help firefighters, EMTs, police officers, and other people that went in that suffered from
Yeah.
all
Yes.
the toxic environment that they were in. Um, but how has politics changed in your eye since that day?
Oh gosh, bro. Pastor Doug and I were kind of joking about this, 2 hours ago. Um, Oftentimes in crisis, you think people will pull together. Our nation is in a health crisis for the last 18 months. We've been in a public health crisis, and we've kind of seen the opposite. We've seen finger pointing, blaming, hoarding, cruelty, ridicule. Um, we've seen all those things. The exact opposite of what you think we should be doing in a time of a crisis. Um, in your best guess, when we first started hearing about,
My brother, we lost him.
yes,
Okay, there you go. We lost you for those
okay,
last couple words.
okay, we never in our best guess did we think it would be um, a political issue kicked around like it did 16 months ago, 17 months ago. Um, but
It,
again, speaks to the divisiveness that we're in right now.
and I think that's an amazing thing that people don't understand or refuse to understand
Yes,
that like right now we are in a crisis, and usually if you look at World War I, World War II, the Korean War,
yes,
Vietnam, the Terry McVeigh, the attack on Oklahoma,
yes,
um, you name all those things. Those things made this country um, refocus
yes,
and get back to the priorities of being an American. Now, what we're having is that we are deeply divided and not even trying to get. We have two different uh, definitions of terminology of what we believe what an American is, and we have some people that believe, for instance, let's take the virus, like you talked about.
yes,
A lot of people believe that they're not going to take the the vaccine. They're not going to wear masks. They're going to fight against that. Then you have the other people on the other side saying, Howard Stern yesterday, in very vulgar language, called people idiots and stupid, and to take their how can I say this? Their freaking rights away and make them get the injection. Uh, how did we get to this point where we're in 2001 and everything before we came together as a country, but this time we are so divided. We're way out there. I even remember the numbers went up in church. People were
Yeah.
people were coming to
Brian,
church.
true. This may be my last time. They sure did. I forgot about that. They sure did.
Oh, the numbers went up. And here's the thing is that President Bush numbers went to the high
Oh
80
God.
of
Yes.
approval. And we also forget that who was the mayor of New York during that time?
Giuliani. Yeah.
Giuliani.
Popularity shot through the roof.
Shot through the roof. Who
Remember,
did
he
it?
was going to weddings and funerals, and uh, I guess that's what he got this heightened sense of himself. But yeah, he was amazing popularity. He was, he was, but he was doing the right thing at the time. He was going to funerals. He was trying to be the mayor for everybody of New York City.
And he did during a crisis. We got to give credit what credit.
He did an excellent job.
He did an excellent job.
Yes.
He did an excellent job. And so it was amazing back in 2001, people, if you can imagine that people took off their red hats and their blue hats and didn't care what state there was. And it was a, the nearest thing to a perfect union
Yes.
that you can say.
Yes.
That we came together. That if you looked at the donations to the Red Cross and all this kind of stuff, people sent in money and donated to everywhere. And but it's amazing that right now, that if you look at floods in Louisiana, fires in California,
Yes.
and all over, and after catastrophe, we're we're fighting over climate. We're fighting over everything when we have a chance to look at and come together and say that we are divided. I mean, if you look at what happened in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
we're missing a chance to come back and say that, regardless of what people say and think, regardless of what people are trying to do with history, especially with our history,
Yes.
of what people are trying to do with voting and stuff like that, that, you know what, this still is the greatest country in the world.
Yeah. You were talking about that unity coming together, and what struck my mind, you think even, as African Americans, the threat of World War II, with black soldiers still being discriminated, signing up in immeasurable numbers, segregated in training, not able to fly aircraft, to Tuskegee Airmen, being discriminated against, still going to fight for a country because they saw something bigger. My father was in World War II. In fact, he and all his brothers. But you think, they were seeing a bigger picture, and also seeing a future and a promise of, yeah, we know how things are here because they're treating us this way as we're trying to serve, but we see a bigger threat to us out there. And now in this climate of the minute there's in fact, I kid you not, Greg, I saw a quote, I think a year ago. I already know what it was related to, some disaster. And I said, now the tragedy has happened, the blame and the finger pointing can start. And we don't get to what do people need, how can we help before we start the finger pointing and the blaming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why a lot of people honestly don't want to go into public service. It's the vitriol, it's the either on this side or that side that I think keeps a lot of people, I know, keeps a lot of people out of public service these days.
And we're missing the chance for a lot of good people to serve too,
Yes,
because the people that are going into politics are so divided as well.
yes, yes.
So, Pastor Melvin, you know, you and I thank you. I don't get a chance to say this, and I want to make it perfectly clear. I want to give flowers to people when they're alive. So I want to thank you for because you cover for me with the show and you co-host a lot of the time. But how do we get to that camaraderie, back to that camaraderie as one? Is it too late? Is the death of common sense? Is it over?
Well, I'm a man of faith, which means I'm a man of hope.
Mhm.
And I know I can't get away from the fact I'm being rooted in some Christian principles, but those same principles are not just found in Christianity, they're found in other religions. And man, uh, I watch people go to meetings, Greg, and they talk to public officials, and you don't have a right to talk to people that way and treat people. You may disagree with them, but I see the same thing reflected sometimes in our congressional leaders. The way you can disagree with people's concepts and ideas, but the level of vitriol, um, you can't talk to people the way you don't want people to talk to you. Work at solutions, and we just forget these things, and people think we're teaching them to a second and a third generation under us, and things don't get things have to be deliberate and intentional, and it can't be about just my side winning because you don't ultimately win.
And one thing that it kind of down the road led to now a war in Afghanistan,
Yes,
and I want to touch on that because there's a lot of finger pointing on what happened in Afghanistan, and
yes.
love it or lump it. Here's the thing. Hey, Jack Page joining late. Hi, fellas.
Hey,
Um,
Jack.
Jack, Jack, I'm gonna question to you. Where were you um, the 9/11 in 2001? Okay, and that question goes out to anyone. All right. So to get back to, I want to talk about out of the thousands of lives that we lost in Afghanistan. There's something we have to remember that their lives were not in vain. Because guess what? In those 20 years, we have not had an attack from Al Qaeda, a foreign entity, in those years. But
Yes,
we seem to forget that, and we're looking at all the other stuff. But we've had all the attacks that we've had have been domestic attacks inside the United States. But
yeah,
for 20 years, we have not had an attack.
yeah. And just not specifically about Afghanistan, but we all understood we were going to pursue the people that attacked us. And I think that was a mandate from the Bushes to the Obamas is let's pursue the people that attacked the United States. And then somewhere we moved into this mistake that we still haven't learned, which is everybody doesn't want our democracy. Everybody doesn't want our way of living. And it changed from us pursuing the people who attacked us to we're going to change a country that Russia next door couldn't bring to its knees.
Exactly.
People always say Afghanistan was Russia's Vietnam.
And,
Um,
and then we rushed in and did it.
yeah, in the 21st century, occupations don't work. They just don't work on the other side of the world. Because at some point, financially or politically, you get enough, and so I think that again, they just don't work unless the overwhelming majority of people in that place call for it. That wasn't the people in Afghanistan. There wasn't an overwhelming call for um, to be democratized like the United States, and it ran its course um, from the day that Obama, then it stepped up by Trump. What's happening was inevitably going to happen.
I want to thank that's Michael Anthony Smith. I believe he listens from Texas, and Michael, you can let me know if that's true or not. Because of the last administration,
Well, I got a problem, first of all. Tell Michael Smith he's gonna have to get that's a picture. He got to start using the more current picture, okay?
yeah, he's using knowing his graduation pictures, but because of the last administration in Washington, unless a similar attack occurs, this country will not come together. I find, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. And the thing that I really appreciated you is that we've always been honest with each other.
Yes.
I find today, unlike 9/11 when we came
Yeah.
together, I find more people actually praying that the captain of the ship fails
Yes. Yeah.
so we can finger point, or the guy that's steering the ship sinks the boat so we have somebody to finger point, instead of
Yeah.
saying, you know what, in a democracy or in this great experiment, you know what, my candidate wins. Okay,
Yeah.
sometimes he lose, but okay, let's get back and do what's good for the country.
Yeah.
Right now, we have we don't have that happening.
Yeah. I'd like to be as optimistic as Mr. Smith there, but yeah, yeah, you don't get people conceding and said, okay, this is the captain of the ship. Let's all help him succeed. No, let's sit in the back. Let's criticize every turn, every port, every stop, all along the way. Yeah, I tend to agree, Greg, that we just don't look for those opportunities to say, okay, I can get on board here. We don't look for them at all.
Back to Jack Page, he said at Chili's in Muskegon, shut the rest of. I mean,
Shut the
and
restaurant.
this was a lot of places. It shut the rest after lunch. Father-in-law was on the plane to Japan. Close friend was on the ferry crossing the towers. He worked there, and we actually watched the ferry turn around on TV. Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Michael said, yes, it's Houston, Texas, and watch it, Melvin.
Yeah.
Back to more comments. My thoughts on all the wars is this: learn your history. Rule number one, a warfare. Never get involved in someone else's religious war. Rule number two, never get into a land war in Asia. Um, we, I mean, he's right. We
Yeah.
violated both in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah, both. Yeah, if we say those are principles, I'd say we violated both of those. We again, we went there for one thing, and we turned it to something else. From the day, remember we had the 52, the card deck of Al Qaeda members we were after at one time. And again, I don't pretend to be a military strategist, but at some point, the thought should have been once we get these, because really, last 10 years have we been talking about Al Qaeda?
No,
We effectively minimized them because they never went away. Because one of the things we should know is when you kill people, their kids and their nephews and their grandkids, they get mad eventually and do something about it.
hmm
But we had effectively minimized Al Qaeda. And the plan should have been once we do that, how do we exit this country? Again, the other themes, again, the religious war, the country building. Again, we also know at the time, Afghanistan was a tremendous foot into the illegal drug market, so we had that to contend with. And I imagine there probably were people who were in our leaders' ears saying, what's our exit strategy? When do we start to look at leaving this country? And um, when do you do it? We had subtle drawdowns under Obama that he kind of halted. I think he saw the potential of what we saw in the past month. President Trump, I think his intent was, he had the huge drawdown of soldiers. And I think that was intent. But I think in both cases, I believe there are people telling the presidents, here's what's going to happen. People smarter than you and I, and what they thought would happen is exactly what happened. And again, um, maybe it could have been smoother. Maybe it could have been on a less grandiose scale. But we really weren't calling the shots there.
Mm.
Once we decide we're pulling troops out, we aren't calling the shots over there. And again, I think what we ended up in was something that was almost inevitable. That's how it appears to me.
Another question: do you think the terrorist attacks still have an effect on how Americans treat American Muslims? Absolutely,
Yes.
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 And not only have they, it's still that Muslims, American Muslims, that are, we, let's face it, they are Americans. But if you look at what happened with this last virus, um, people of Asian descent attacked. Um,
Hmm.
let's go back to World War II, where Asians
Yes.
were uh, rounded up and put in camps and stuff like that.
Yes.
But to go back to that question, absolutely yes. And the thing is not only are Muslims attacked, but if you look at now and now, you look at that, people think that they can talk to someone that don't look like them, like they can talk to them like they're like in I, I don't know, like they're crazy. Just let's
Yeah.
put it out there.
Yeah.
People are just saying some of the craziest things. I said this to some people that it is me and my wife have been married for 26 years. I love her to death. Um, my wife is white. Um, I didn't marry her because of her skin color. I married her because she was my best friend and continues to be my best friend. And I told her she will have me. I'm like luggage. She's gonna have me for life. And but anyway, this 18 months to 2 years have been the toughest years on both of us dealing with racism.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it has been nuts. The thing is that we having to being able to go and explain to people and try to talk to people about Black Lives Matter and um, well, why did uh, Biden uh, Nicki Minaj and but why did Trump have Lil Wayne and it's just been some of the most ridiculous stuff that we've had to deal with and but to go back to that question, yes, let's go back to the questions are coming in fast and furious. Iraq was a Sunni conflict. Let me see. We had everything right to defend Kuwait. We really were sold a bad bill of goods in Iraq, and Bush one knew that there wasn't is an exit strategy, so he stopped short of Baghdad. But again, there's money in war, so
Mhm.
Bush too tried a nation building, not very successful.
Yeah. I can recall, gosh, Greg, I was at Oakland University, so this is somewhere between 80 and 84. And there was an outbreak, the Sunni and Shia conflict. Of course, outside of Detroit and Dearborn's the largest concentration
Yeah.
of Arab Americans in the country. And there was some conference at our school. And I remember the school couldn't get out of the contract. And they basically told all the students to leave the campus for the weekend. Remember playing? They just said, "Hey, if you can leave the campus, leave for the weekend," because things were at that height in that conflict. This going back 80 to 84, somewhere in that period of time.
Well, I was going back to what I was telling you about when I was attacked about putting a
Uh-huh.
tribute on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Somebody brought up this point, and I want to get your point. They said if they are willing to forget our history and what our history, why should I even care about 9/11? I'm willing to forget about 9/11.
Well, here's the thing, brother. Um, what we're trying to get people to understand is the African American history is not just ours, it's this country's history.
It's our
Yeah,
country
it's
history.
our country's history. So when you learn about Benjamin Banneker and Daniel Hill Williams, you're not learning about Black history in this in the smallest, but you're learning American history. And so, as an African American, 9/11 is also part of my history. My daughter was barely a year old, but guess what? That's still part of history that I want her to know about and learn also. So what we're trying to say is we're not trying to narrow it down. No, African American history was there because it was excluded, and we're trying to make sure it's included.
But
So
what we
we're
have
saying when you teach American history, include it all.
to remember is that the person that's in charge usually writes the history, but
Yes,
they're not writing history. They're writing his story.
exactly.
I was amazed. I was watching TV the other day, and they were talking about the early days of airfares, and that a woman that one of the best sharecrop flyer. I mean, this woman was famous, and she not only was she famous, she made some statements that she would not do segregated shows. She would not do where there were two lines, had to be two lines, that everybody had to come through one line. And I'm
Hmm.
going, why am I hearing about this history? Why is it that we have to wait about a movie to find out that women help guys land on the moon?
Right.
Anyway, this history in 9/11 is important, but what we're talking about that is very important is that it's all history and that it all should be included. And
Yes.
some history is going to make you feel uncomfortable, but you need to know that history so you don't make the same mistake again. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's just like the question that we had about Muslims. You know how people treat Muslims, and the way people treated Asians, and they made a bill quickly to suppress, hopefully suppress how Asians are treated, but they still haven't did a bill on the way that we are treated.
Yeah. And they got reparations.
Boy,
We don't want to go there. We don't want to go there.
that's a whole nother show there.
I'm, I'm, I'm just stating the historical fact.
I mean, I'm not trying to get off track or
No.
for our 9/11 tribute because it's important that we
Yeah.
remember. But when you talk about reparations, that people fail to realize that I'm going to go back to a history point that maybe a lot of people don't know that
Hmm.
slave owners back in the day after the Civil War were
Yep.
given reparations.
Reparations.
They were given reparations because of their loss of the workers their product. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Stop it. So we will do a show on reparations because there's a lot of people that don't
Yeah.
know the history of that
Yeah.
and what needs to be done. But 9/11 people,
Yeah.
we've got to
You
get
know,
back. Go ahead,
you know, you say
Burn.
never forget. We talk about some of those elements, being in public safety. And we saw these stories over and over. When you run into a tower to save people, you don't stop. Firefighters, police officers, they don't stop. And if you're white, you don't run past a white person and you go and a black person. So let me go save a white person. Um, I've worked in community in Ohio that was very, 95% white, and spend a lot of time with the public safety people there. Still, just was not their mindset in that community. Was this is the job we do? Overwhelmingly, police, fire, paramedics, they go to do the job. I don't want to get to the whole bad apple discussion, but I still know that the majority of people want to go and do their job. They want to protect the public. They want to help save lives. They want to help people. I probably interviewed 1,000 police and fire candidates in my lifetime. Why do you want this job? I want to help people. Number one answer still. And you saw that day. people risking their lives, no breathing apparatus, nothing, trying to rescue people out of buildings,
Straight
people in
in.
the towers with other co-workers carrying people.
Yep.
Uh, when like, oh, wait a minute, let me see if I can carry somebody who looks more like me. It was, if there's somebody I can help, let me help. Again, and when we say never forget, as programs take place over the weekend, I hope we hear more of those stories again and how moving they were of people helping to save people's lives and, being selfless and helping one another.
I want to get to this comment because we're running out of time. Mike, he say I might come home for the reparation show. Michael, I tell you what, if you want to be on that show, we'll get you from Texas. So you let us know. Jack, I want to thank you. You have a comment, but we got to wrap up the show. I just want to say this: in 2011, this country we faced something that we hadn't faced. We were attacked. We were attacked, and we were attacked by some guys. And there were warning signs. And I'm glad that they opened up that study to find out uh, if there's anything missed that
Yeah,
shows transparency about the 9/11. So I think that was very good by President Biden.
yeah.
Um, but let's get back to what is it going to take? Is it going to take another attack? Is it going to take something? Well, wait a minute. Hold on. I can't say that because we had something January 6th that had never happened before.
True, true.
We had, I mean, we had an attack on our capital to mess with our democracy, and we and coming up on September the 18th, we have people going to Washington to protest that the people that were arrested are individuals that should not be arrested or should not be tried. People, if we don't look at our history, I know, yeah, September the 18th, that's coming up, and
Yeah.
yeah, people are getting ready for that. But if we don't look at our history, if how the
Hmm.
what came out of September 11th, a spirit of patriot, we were just flags flying, patriotic.
Yeah.
There was a spirit of seeing people, not only firefighters, police officers, and EMT, but um, the fellow man or woman carrying somebody out of the dust, helping each other that day. And then afterwards, seeing the boom. I mean, the boom of people. Uh, like I said, there are people coming back to church. There was a boom in people. It didn't matter what color. They joined the military. They want people joined the fire department, the police department, and they wanted to make a difference. And if we don't get into that thinking of unity, we are headed down a bad road.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. No, you said, brother. You said let's not forget. Let's never forget. Let's not forget how bad it was, how horrible it was. Let's not forget how unified, how good, how decent we can beat each other, and choose and decide which one we like better, which one we'd rather have.
That's it. Because at the end of the day, you got to take care of you.
Yeah.
Um, the last thing I want to say, and this is just my comment on people, before you get a chance to say anything that you think you can say to me, how about you get a chance to know me
All right.
and know Pastor Burns, and um, you'll find out that we have a lot of things in common. Um, but get a chance to know me, and don't judge me because you don't know me. Pastor Burns, any last words?
Brother, I echo that. Don't assume, even doing the show, before either one of us. And man, I love having a good, decent conversation with people about almost anything. Doesn't matter whether I agree or not. If we can have a good conversation, agree, disagree, we're both going to learn something from that. And maybe we can make that contagious for the rest of our community.
All right. Next week, we will start interviewing of our Heights candidates. Pastor Burns, I would love you to come back because what I believe is fairness. And you interviewed the first candidate in the Heights race. And I would like you to come back to help me facilitate that because you led that first interview.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to doing that with you, brother.
All right. That's it. We're going to call it the show for today. We had some technical difficulties. They do happen from now and then. But I really want to thank you for listening and watching Torn in Two. Tomorrow, my flag will be up. If I had a flagpole, my flag would be Lord Half Staff. To celebrate the lives of the people that died that day, the people that went in the buildings to save people, and Flight 93, the spirit of Flight 93, where those people said, let's roll for the common good. I may lose my life, but I'm going to help my fellow man. This is Torn in Two. Thank you, Melvin Burns, Pastor Melvin Burns II, Gregory T. Roberts. Take care. God bless. We see you next week.
The wait is over. The all-new Umoja Radio Network, home to over 40 Black-owned radio stations and podcasts, is here for you. Connect to the world's fastest-growing collection of unapologetically